Welcome to the commute.
Welcome to the commute as we're in traffic.
I'm Shannon.
I'm Andrew.
And Andrew is going to talk from his diaphragm.
I'm going to talk from my diaphragm. Unique New York. Enunciate my words.
So, we definitely needed the commute today. One, just to do this podcast, because hot topic in the news is the NAR lawsuit.
Right.
And so I could go on and on and on about this lawsuit, but let's, from the agent standpoint, what are some of the things you're hearing, and even from our consumers? Is there anything that's coming back that you have questions on?
You're asking me?
Anything you're hearing?
I have questions.
Or anything that you want to talk about on the podcast from there's cars too. That you want to talk about based on what people have been asking you.
Yeah. All right. So like the big headline from CNN was the 6% real estate commission is dead. Is that true? What did it actually mean when they came down with this? When they settled this lawsuit?
Okay, so I don't know where this whole 6% dead thing is coming from because commission is not always 6%.
Yeah.
It's never been that way.
Go to South Henry County.
Right.
Nope, you're not getting in here.
Right. So also some companies are at 7, some are at 8, commercial 10, land 10. These are averages and kind of what we would consider like our norm in the market, but commission's always been negotiable. We've got companies right now that do listings for $500. It's
right.
A la carte type, companies. So is 6% dead? Definitely not. May it get countered or negotiated more often? Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know like dead what that means. I don't know what I think clickbait. That's all I think that's for.
Yeah.
It's because no, it's not dead. It's just things are going to be different.
Well, even for us though, right? Like when we go on a listing appointment, we're still going to encourage offering buyers brokers compensation.
Right. So, and I think that's probably what they're referring to with is 6% dead.
Right.
So let's talk about like what they're saying. Basically, NAR has gone back to offer a settlement. The judge has not signed off on it as of today. What is today's date?
March the 19th.
So March 19th, 2024. So the judge has not signed off on this lawsuit, the settlement as of yet, but they've offered to pay and change the way commission is shared amongst agents. So what we have is it's a MLS system. It's called a multiple listing service. Through that, when an agent puts that listing in the system, it is shared to all websites through something called an IDX system. Well, when we put that listing in MLS, the multiple listing service, we usually put what we are paying a co-oping agent. That co-oping agent fee is traditionally, again, this is traditionally, it is not always, but traditionally it is split. So if I got 6% and if I had a co-oping agent, I'm going to offer to give them 3%. And I guess when you think about why we do this, one, as a listing agent, this is a way for me to somewhat employ all the agents in my area as marketing, right? So I am in essence offering them income if they will market my property to their buyers and show my property to their buyers, my listing. So what the lawsuit is saying is we, one, need to disclose to the seller that they are paying a co-op agent commission out of that 6%, which, let's break that part down. They are not.
Right.
They hired me as their listing agent. I charge 6%.
Yeah.
In return, I choose how to spend that 6%, and I offer 3% to another agent. But if there's no other agent involved, most agents, listing agents, then they're making 6%.
Right.
That's what the seller agreed to. Now, here in Georgia, we've always disclosed that we are, I shouldn't say always, but almost as long as I've been in the business, we've disclose to the sellers, hey, we are sharing this commission. We're in essence employing all the agents to help market your property.
Right.
Okay. So the problem is a lot of other states never disclose that. And buyer agents weren't really a big thing in those other states. A lot of consumers just went directly to the listing agent. Well, then you have other disclosure issues. So you have who are they representing? Are they truly representing both parties? So then you open up to a whole nother, can of worms, another lawsuit. So I lost my train of thought on all that. It's just frustrating.
Yeah, so I think we were at breaking down how the 6% is shared, who pays it. You're saying that the sellers in the lawsuit are saying we pay 6%. We're splitting that. We didn't know you were splitting that with the buyer's broker. But you're saying
right.
Even if you don't properly disclose, if a listing agent says we're charging 6%, then that 6% is their fee. If they want to share it, then that should be their prerogative to share.
Right. But what this lawsuit is saying is, well, we can no longer do that without disclosure, which again, in Georgia, we already do this. So, and this is another thing, Georgia shouldn't be impacted by this, but because it's national news, we're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But we've already been doing this. But now sellers are saying, yeah, I don't want to have to pay a buyer's agent. That's they're hiring that agent. They should pay them. Okay. I don't completely disagree with this statement.
Yeah.
However, in the market that we're in Georgia, we're in a primarily a lower priced range market, right? We need affordable housing. We're creating affordable housing. Now let's take an affordable housing buyer who barely can come up with their 3.5% to 5% down for their loan.
Right.
Now you're saying, oh, you also have to pay for your agent on top of that.
Yeah.
They cannot afford it. So what's going to happen?
Yeah, they're going to have to go right to the listing agent, and then they're not going to get properly represented, and then you're going to get more lawsuits straight from that.
Right.
I mean, that's what's going to happen.
Right. So it's insane. And VA buyers, they can't even pay for an agent. They're allowed to pay for nothing per the VA loan. They can't even pay for a $50 termite letter.
Yeah.
So what happens to the VA buyer now? Because they don't have the funds. In most cases, they're doing 100% loan. They don't have the funds.
Right.
So in all actuality, we're going backwards. We're back in the 70s, 80s when people had to have 20% down to be able to buy a home. And,
especially with home prices, where they are, our average home prices, like you're saying, it's $300,000.
Right.
And you're still at a point where sellers aren't paying full closing costs. They might pay some, but they're not paying full closing costs. So right now, to buy a $300,000 home, you need $9,000 down. You probably need another 6 or 7 in closing costs.
Yep.
And then if you put on buyer's compensation on top of that, even if you're a listing agent, you're only charging 1.5%. That's an extra $5,000 he's got to come up with.
Right.
So where's he going to find that when he's got to already come up with $15,000?
Right.
And he's having to use Georgia Dream or down payment assistance, other down payment assistance programs or whatever.
Right.
So it's just
so it's going to be a mess. I mean, I think agents need to definitely stick together. Again, we need to stick together, and we need to fight for what we do and what we do well. But there is another side of this. This should get rid of a lot of bad agents.
Yeah.
Right. And which to a degree I'm a little bit happy about, because I feel like we need to take our jobs serious. We are professionals. We're in an industry where people are spending usually the most amount of money that they'll ever spend on a single item, right? So we need to recognize that, and we should be educated on our market. We should be able to advise. We should be able to offer everything that we do. We should be able to translate to a consumer, whether it's the seller or the buyer, exactly what we're going to do, and we should do it well.
Yeah.
So, but I've had clients reach out to and say, hey, I think this is a great thing. And I was like, why? And and a lot of things that they're saying is, in a lot of cases, they feel like they were never represented well by the buyer's agent to begin with.
Yeah.
So then it's like, why should the buyer's agent get so much commission?
Yeah.
And I can't disagree with some of that, because I have seen some terrible transactions.
Some of it. But I also think, like you were saying on Monday, especially for me, so if I talk about if I'm on social media now that I have to be on Instagram and all that, and okay, got a closing, I'm never going to put how difficult it was.
Right.
Right. So it does look easy. Oh, Andrew, he has 10 closings already this year.
Right.
But like, you're not going to be, oh, but he had to talk to this guy for 8 hours, and he had to do this until 10 at night, and he had to do this.
He had to go move a washer out of a house.
Right.
He had to go, right.
So like all these
right.
little things that no one, or like the listing one that we're under contract now, I had to go spend 3 hours up at East Point to get the everything turned on.
Right.
Still don't have the gas on. Already like probably 25 to 40 hours in the last 3-4 weeks just on that property. But you don't talk about that because no one wants to read about that.
Right.
And they're going to say that that's BS anyway, that I didn't actually spend all that time doing it.
Right. Which, okay, so then you take into, okay, how does an agent get paid? You know, if you're a consumer that's like, I don't need an agent, fine, cool, don't need an agent. You're not my market. Like, fine, go do what you're going to do. But the majority of people, me included, if I am buying a property out of my state, I am getting an agent.
Yeah.
I am not calling the listing agent. I want someone that is going to tell me the truth. I don't have time to research, dive in, figure things out. I want to hire an agent, and I want to hire them to do their job, and I expect them to do it well.
Yep.
And traditionally, if I'm the buyer, I'm assuming that this is going to get rolled into the purchase price of the house because the listing agent is paying them.
Right.
If the listing agent is not paying my buyer's agent, then I'm making sure that that house price is reduced by 3% so I can then increase it to pay my buyer's agent.
Right.
So if you are a consumer and you know that you're wise, you know that you need buyer representation, then I would highly recommend talking to your agent and finding out what are they going to do for you.
Yeah.
Because you finding a home on Zillow and sending it, that they're not working for you, right? They should be active in your search. They should be willing and available to show you properties. Of course, they're going to negotiate. They're going to do all the other stuff. And then things that Andrew was saying, sometimes you just have to even do more.
Right.
So if they want to negotiate my price and they want to do an hourly rate like you would with an attorney, it would probably be more.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, it would probably cost them more.
Yeah, it really would. And that's where people don't understand is, like, the guy that you're talking about, one of your clients, he talked about an a la carte services or fee sheet. But if you actually break that down and how much you would have to charge to show a house and do all the things, you're probably going to end up being, if they ask for everything, it's going to be over 3% of the purchase price of the home they're looking for.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And you're not going to be able to see 30 homes. We're like, no, we're showing you 5 homes.
Right.
And then you're to this tier.
Yep.
And then it's like a tiered service. So like that's where we own, like, part of the rub is we do only get paid if it closes, right? So even if you think, oh, it's too much, people don't see this one client I showed 35 homes to and we never bought and he's still renting, and like, so like it all kind of balances out for the agent,
but it doesn't necessarily for the consumer that's actually paying.
Yeah.
And I think that's part
the
of
kind
it.
That people don't.
So I think in listings are just easier in general with all of this, the money side of things. When you talk about a buyer, like, this is why I believe retainer fees are important. Yeah. You know, they should have to pay for our services. So again, we're just in a market that we need affordable housing. This is gonna hinder a lot of buyers.
Right.
If listing agents are going into now listing appointments and being like, I can save you 3%. We're gonna make that buyer's agent get paid by their buyer. Foolish. If you are an agent and you are about to do that crap, you need to stop. You need to stop and think, because you are short-term focused, right? What is it? Short-sighted? Yeah. You are not thinking long-term. And you are not thinking about the community. Like, your seller, yes, wants a buyer, but you need buyers that can afford the homes.
Right.
Like,
not to mention, like, I think in partly it was buyer's agent's fault. They're trying to tell their clients, oh, you don't have to worry about it. The seller pays my commission. Like, seller, like, when you actually break it down, yes, it comes out of the seller's proceeds, but there's no commission being paid if the buyer doesn't purchase that home.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
technically, the buyer is paying the commission.
Right. And it's just that, yes, it's the seller's proceeds because they own the property. But if no one buys that home, no commission's being paid.
Right.
So, like, that's where it's just so dumb, every aspect of it. Because even like you're saying, those agents that are like, oh, I can save you 3%, and then when they go represent that seller to buy a house, you bet they're going to be crossing their fingers hoping that selling agent is offering a commission.
Right. Yeah, and man, I think that needs to be disclosed. Oh, you recently sold a house? Did you pay both sides? Because if not, I ain't paying.
Right. Yeah, it's only fair is fair.
I mean, yeah, and it's just great. And I know people are saying things like, well, it's always been done this way. I'm not a fan of that comment. Look, if change is good, then let's change.
Yeah, I
If
agree.
it is good. But this feels haphazard and not communicated well. Because again, let's go back to the very first thing I said. The 6% is not gone.
Right.
It is only if these agents go out to these listing appointments and start telling their sellers, oh yeah, it's fine, we don't need to pay the co-op agent, it's fine, then that becomes an agent fault issue. Right? So consumers, if you are thinking of selling, and I sit down with you, just sat down with someone on Sunday, I'm thinking, look, this lawsuit stuff just hit what, Thursday afternoon, right?
Friday. We're at our leprechaun relay thing.
That's right. So Friday just hit. I go to an appointment on Sunday at 2:00. Sunday, 2:00. The seller asked me, so what about this lawsuit and commission?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's already starting. Okay. So I simply said, we're going to charge 6%. And we're going to offer 3% to the co-op agent. And here is why. If you disagree with this, we might not be the best company for you. And here is why, right? And we went through everything. And he was like, okay, no problem. Like there wasn't even a question. It was like, so I think the misinformation that's out there and then agents doing this knee-jerk reaction and freaking out, like everyone just needs to calm down, explain to the consumers, especially sellers, when you're in these listing appointments, and just have a conversation about it. Explain what that 3% does and why it's of value. And then for buyers agents, yes, you do need to educate your buyer that if it is not being paid, they owe you that money.
Right.
You cannot work for free. Everyone needs to know commission is negotiable. Period. It is negotiable. If I go into a much higher end property that's, let's say, $2 million, heck yeah, I'm not doing 6% there, right? Yes, there is extra marketing that has to be done. You have to market differently. That does tend to cost more money, but it's not that much, right? So
we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars,
right? Yeah. So, and then the other thing that we can always do is we can charge marketing fees and retainer fees and reduce the commission. So consumers need to know that yes, it's always negotiable, and then buyer agents need to get much better at selling their services and living up to what they're selling.
Yeah.
So this is a hot topic for you, can you tell?
Yeah, I can tell you've been thinking about it a lot. Yeah. So number 2 would be, why do you think this happened? Like, well, we talked mostly about the misinformation, I guess, that's being had or being told out there by multiple media outlets, people commenting on Instagram and Facebook. Like, I feel like that's a bunch of misinformation, but no one really talks about why this started. What's the reasoning? Because I think there probably is some like truth to some of the arguments they made. But like you're saying, it wasn't really well thought out of the changes they wanted to make.
Well, and because they're trying to make this, it's more national level, and they're not even looking at individual states. No. And really, these are state issues, not national issues. So
like most things.
Yeah. So first off, we're a sue-happy freaking country. I mean, people sue for everything and anything, and it's always someone else's fault. Nobody wants to take responsibility for anything. Not saying that there are not people that most definitely should sue and deserve to win, right? Yeah. I'm not saying that. Yeah. In general, when you look at court cases and how much goes in front of a judge, how many people sue every day, it's astronomical. And the only thing that's happening is attorneys are getting rich, right? That's it. So in this case, what happened is, again, I'm not saying that they are wrong for suing in this case. But people, listing agents mostly, were not disclosing to their sellers the full fee structure. They weren't disclosing co-op commission. They weren't disclosing, in most cases, who was representing who. They didn't even have representation nailed down. in the state of Georgia, we have a document, it's ABCs of agency. It literally goes through all the different types of agencies, buyer's agent, seller's agent, exclusive, non-exclusive, customer relationship versus client. So we go over all of that. But most states don't have that.
Yeah.
And then our listing agreements have pretty much always stated 3% go to the co-op agent, which is the buyer's agent. And why? Because they're bringing us the buyer, they're helping us market the property. So it is a cooperative effort, giving why it's called the co-op agent. So you're gonna get in trouble for that.
Sorry,
So in essence, basically a consumer sued saying, I was never informed that I was also paying for the buyer's agent. Okay, that's one lawsuit that happened. There was multiple of them.
Right.
One comes, then they all come. Oh, that happened to me too. Oh, what?
Yeah.
I didn't know. And then there was the other one that was more around agency and non-disclosure of working. They were working two sides. So what happened in this case? There was, and this is from memory, so forgive me if I get some of the details wrong, but basically a listing agent had a property, let's say it was 6%. They were offering a co-op. They got an offer, the agent got an offer from another agent, but then she also found a buyer. So instead of disclosing that she had this other offer from another agent, which meant she would have had to share that 6%,
right,
she only presented her offer,
right,
which meant she got 6%.
right.
So, and the seller didn't find out until after closing. And, you know, man, things work in crazy ways, right? So he just ran into the people that made the offer with the other agent, and he was like, that was never presented to us. So, and that becomes again more agency disclosure, not
right,
understanding that this agent had the opportunity to get them more money, but was able to make more money by not telling them. They didn't understand as well that commission was being split.
Gotcha.
So that's pretty much how we got here. That's the short, dumbed down version. There's a lot, but, and then, let me just rant on NAR. So National Association of Realtors. Used to love them. So we're obviously a part of that.
Proud partners.
We are proud. So they failed. They failed us. They've been failing us for a while. We could go all the way back to them, Zillow and IDX and shared information. But you know what? We're just not going to go all the way there. What we're going to focus on is the way they acted in court. The way they did not represent us for what we do and disclosure. Instead, they made it look like, okay, this failure on California or whoever, whatever states were all involved.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, hey, these states messed up, but we have these other states that this doesn't happen,
right,
they basically just let us all be thrown under the bus, ran over backwards and forwards, and then was like, all right, next.
We'll just increase fees and we'll pay this lawsuit out and all's good.
I am not. NAR, you come at me, try to increase my fees. I ain't paying. I'll jump that ship quick.
Well, and that's what's so dumb is if they could have, like you're saying, like Georgia, never been mentioned once in a lawsuit because we disclosed, we properly disclosed.
Right.
Like the simple solution is, hey, properly disclose, right? Basically force disclosure, and then what's the argument?
Should be none.
Right.
And now you're taking commission off of the public sites, right? The multiple listing service sites.
Right.
So now that commission isn't even public. So now you just let agents have another way to hide money.
Right. Yeah.
Why are people? I'm not smart. I am literally not a smart person.
Yep.
Why is no one talking and thinking through all of these things?
Well, because you're really just giving away, like they have their percentage they have in the listing agreement, but I mean, technically they could lie about it on the instructions closing attorney and just get paid more.
Yeah.
If they wanted to.
Right.
So
or they could take 6 and say that they were sharing it and then not share it.
Right.
Or they can take 6 and
give 2 and keep 4, even if their listing agreement says 3 and 3.
So frustrating.
Because we have no we have no way to look at the listing
Right.
agreement. We won't know until we're literally at the closing table.
Yep. Or you get the Alta, so you get to see it 3 days before. But yeah, it's just a mess. It's a complete mess. And again, there's aspects of it that are good.
Yeah.
The majority of it is bad.
Yeah.
It was not thought out. So again, we said that the lawsuit is not finalized. Judge has not signed off on it. However, this removing the commission from the multiple listing services has been finalized, and that is to take place in July, I believe the date was.
July 2024.
This year.
Quick. Yeah.
Yes. So, you have more questions on that?
So I had another one. So as team lead owner, how is that going to change the way you train, the way you recruit, the way you do your operation?
Let's start with operations because that one's easy. We've already had a meeting about changing our policies and procedures.
Yeah.
So we've already went through our policies and procedures to change how we interact with sellers, buyers, agent fees, what they're allowed to charge, what they're not, just how to kind of handle it from a policy standpoint. So we've already done that. We'll have our attorney review it, and those will be implemented probably within the next week or two. When you talk about training, obviously now we add much more training. What is going on over there? Is that a funeral that's taking, they're shutting down the entire interstate? That is interesting.
It said parked vehicle, and that's what.
That's what are you doing? Boy, we almost died. Oh, we're good.
I think we just had like a 30-second lull in the podcast because we're both just
we were
trying to see what was going on
sorry.
with this traffic here to the left. People were complaining about bottlenecking and all that crap.
So
we saw the reason why.
Okay. So training. We will implement more training on selling your actual services, what you do, how you handle clients. We will also implement retainer fees. We cannot have realtors out there working and not making money, right? That it just can't happen. So much more training on how to handle the commission side of things and securing getting paid while selling your services and making sure that they are the best services possible. I don't want to see any other agency beating us on service. I don't want to see a single brokerage out serving their clients. We will outserve any brokerage that I come across. That is my mission now. And so,
and we probably already do.
Most likely. But it'll make me dig in a little bit more and, just really, really, really focus on it. And what was the other one? Training, recruiting, you said. For recruiting, I think now we really focus on the agents that care about client first. And again, I said this on I was in a recording today with Medical Mission Outreach for upcoming gala. And I said to them, I think everyone says, oh, clients first, blah, 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 blah. And it just becomes, meh. It is not like that with us. And you can't really explain it. People have to experience it. But
we have so many agents that literally will do anything for their clients and to try to save them money, to try to just go over and above.
Yeah. Everything.
Don't take the trust that they have in them lightly.
Yeah.
So many, very rarely. Well, I don't even think we would have a team agent that wouldn't do that, honestly.
At all. No.
You know what I mean? We wouldn't even put them on the team. So
and if they ever did, they'd be gone pretty quick. I mean, that, to me, the client first thing is so important, and I think everyone says it, but I don't see it. I mean, I go to closings where I look across that table and I'm like, their agent isn't even there to represent them. That number one just rubs me the wrong way. Or they show up late, and I'm just like, how unprofessional. And then not only that I see that I'll look at inspection reports where they'll ask me for something and then they'll leave stuff out, and I'm like, what an idiot. Why did they not ask for this?
Right, which is way worse.
Right, they asked for this dumb stuff, which tells me they told their client to flip through the thing, tell me what you want, and I'll go and ask. Instead, you should be going through that inspection report with your client and discussing cost on things. How, what does it look like? Time frame. Oh, I hate those cars. So recruiting, I think, is just really focusing on making sure our agents, even our brokerage, are client first focused. And if they
Agreed.
come in and talk to me about money first thing, any recruit, but if we sit down and if their first question is something to do with money, I'm done.
Yeah.
I think you've been in a meeting where I'm like, oh, okay, it was really nice to meet you,
Yep.
and I leave. I'm like, y'all can finish with this person, but
Yep.
I'm done.
Yeah.
So I think that has to change. So.
Yeah. I agree.
So, anything else on it?
No, I mean that was the main questions. I just had. It is going to be an interesting couple of years, probably, or months, or whatever.
I think it'll be. I really believe it's going to be years. I think it's going to be years in the sense of this is going to bring additional issues. Yeah. I think this individual thing will probably get figured out here in the next few months, but I think in reality, the real estate industry as a whole is going to be really bumpy for probably the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Because I think additional lawsuits are going to come out. I think other things are going to happen. I'm looking forward to bad agents getting out of the business. I'm really excited about that.
That's definitely going to happen.
I think big box brokerages are going to feel it a little more than maybe some of our smaller brokerages.
Yeah. Well, that's who got hit in the lawsuits the most anyway, right? It was like the Keller Williams of the world, the Remax, the EXPs.
Yep. So I think in general that's going to impact the real estate community as a whole. Yeah. So if anyone wants to have a conversation about how I get paid, how the agents get paid, anything like that, I am always open for it. I've always had an open book. Even with my agents, we're an open P&L. You want to see what I make, I'll show you. You want to understand what we do, I'll show you.
Yep.
But our expenses are high, and that's the thing that most consumers don't understand. Yep. And of course, I'm going to have to start reducing expenses. Yep. From a business standpoint, I will be looking at reducing expenses because I don't know what's going to happen. I know that I will still be an agent. I know my good agents will still be agents, and I know that we'll all still be together. But I don't know what it looks like. So we're gonna buckle down, stop spending money, to just be nice and have that money more focused, and really promote what we are doing and how we treat our clients. And I don't know if we'll ever go to a la carte type system. I mean, it's not the worst idea. However, when you do start adding up the a la carte type stuff, I'm probably going to add a retainer fee or marketing fee to that.
Yeah, I think you have to, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, honestly, in the a la carte system, the client still loses. Mm-hmm. They might save some money, but they're going to end up losing out on service. They're going to end up losing on the smoothness of the transaction. Mm-hmm. In all reality.
Yep.
So and that's what I think people aren't understanding. People don't understand all the behind the scenes stuff that agents deal with for hoping that it'll close or getting it to close. I don't know. I think it'll be interesting.
Yep. Well, this is probably our longest podcast to date. I think I was probably most fired up about this.
Probably, yeah. It's probably was needed, especially with everyone talking about it online and not knowing what they're talking about is probably the most frustrating thing.
Yes. When I see fake stuff posted, I literally my blood actually gets hotter.
I mean, you literally all the posts are agent commission's dead, no more buyer agency, no more this, no more that.
It's ridiculous.
It's not.
Which none of it's true. Not literally none of that is true.
My listing that just went live last week and my next listing both offer buyer agency commission.
Yep.
And the one we go on next Friday, we will tell them you should offer. Our recommendation is to offer a buyer's agency commission.
Yep. And I will explain. This is we have always done this, and what they are currently saying, we've always disclosed. Not that we've always charged 6%, but we've always disclosed. The lawsuit is about non-disclosure, and that's what we will explain. Yep. So, well, I think we're supposed to say something at the end of this.
Oh, yep. You need to follow us on Instagram and at the Commute Pod. Follow us on YouTube, the Commute Pod. Like, comment, and subscribe. That's it. We are 8 minutes away, so we're almost done commuting.
Awesome, and that plane seems very low.
It does.
All right, commute is out.
Bye. I thought you were going to